Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our Friday afternoon lunch and learn. It's a while since we've done one of these, and it brings back memories of lockdown, which I don't know whether is a good or a bad thing. But we started doing these sessions in lockdown, and we haven't done one for a while. So I was really pleased when Barbara came along and said, "I've got this fantastic new presentation, this new session that she would like to share with us." Now, I met Barbara, I think, back in 2016, and we did some work together in Oman. We met through Patrick McEwen, and we worked in Oman together, doing some running workshops, some breathing workshops. We've trained together as OA coaches, so we go back a long way. Barbara, welcome. Thanks for sharing with us this session.
Well, thank you, Gray, for giving me this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, and good to see everyone. Um, yeah, there's just a few more people coming in. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about energy, as we've mentioned in the the communication that's gone out so far. Fascinating topic. And what we're covering mainly is work from Dr. Alan Watkins. He's a neuroscientist, among other things. And about the same time, I met Gray actually, and I was doing some research, figuring out, various things about breathing. And I'd got into breathing back in 2005 or so. um, I had a couple of mountain bike accidents when I lived in Oman, and I was working in a fairly senior position in the oil business, and everything was about getting stuff done and go. And after those two accidents, someone suggested, because I was like, oh, I have to change my life. And someone suggested I go and see this Ayurvedic practitioner who lived in Muscat, where I was. I go to see Shiva, and he said, okay, well, just stop running and stop cycling and stop this and stop that. Sit down twice a day and watch your breath for 20 minutes. And I'm like, what? Are you an idiot? Like, I can hardly stand. My back's killing me. I almost died from dehydration. How is sitting watching my breath going to change anything? And I'll never to this day understand what made me do it, but I did it. And after a year, I got up one morning. I thought, I'm going for a run. I don't care what Shiva says. And where I lived, it was very hot, very hilly. And I did this 10K route that I, regularly did before I'd had that year's break. And I came back and it was like, that's weird. I haven't trained for a year and I've just done that run. And it was as if I hadn't stopped training. I just ran up and down the hills, blah, blah, blah. And so that put me on a journey of trying to understand what had happened. And, so there had been so many impacts and very, very subtle. It was, I was a different person basically, and we'll talk a bit more about that. And say the sciencey part of me, led me on a journey of starting research. I started studying transpersonal psychology, and I moved from Oman to Nigeria, and I was getting my leadership team to breathe in the meetings, and it was just like such a different person. And yeah, I moved from Nigeria to India. I was there for 4 years, and then I quit all that, and that's when I started the research. That's when Gray and I met. I'd met Patrick, and I also had the privilege to meet Dr. Alan Watkins, and his work just fascinated me, and it really, really answered a lot of the science and gave me a lot of understanding of what had happened. It's just been absolutely amazing. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a practice, and I'll talk you through it as we do it. Looking at our levels of energy and how we show up. And then, I'll probably do two practices over two different time periods. Then I'll talk a little bit of, some of the science around that. And then what I would like to do as well is introduce everyone to an app that Dr. Watkins has recently developed. He has an organization, it's called Complete Coherence. And this app is really, really, comprehensive app to help us understand our energy levels and to understand as well how we regulate them and how we show up, etc., etc. It's really, really impacted. So yes, we'll go through all that, and it's participative. I want this to be a relaxed session, ideally. So if anyone, has got any questions or whatever, just please, jump in, and it's, I say collaborative session. Now this is the first time actually I'm doing this particular type of session, and so I would really love your feedback. If we've got time at the end, but also after, the session, any feedback that you have would be really, really helpful for me. Um, so now, before we get started, really into the first session, could I ask you, please, just if you like, you don't have to, but if you like, put in the chat, how are you feeling? How do you feel? How are you? And how you would rate your current level of energy, on a scale from 0 to 100%. How energized are you at this particular moment? And, just don't need to go into it in any particular detail, but just, give me a rough idea, just what comes in your head, in terms of, so how do I feel and what's your energy level? So, okay, so 50% from Yvonne, good. Anxious, yeah. 60% from Gary, 50% Andrea, 65 from Gray. Dave is feeling good, 80%. Yeah, and for people who've just come in, we're just putting in the chat, if you like, not essential. How are you feeling? How are you? And how would you rate your current level of energy? So, yeah. So we've got ranges from about, oh wow, Angeliki is, oh wow, Enrique, Angeliki is 70, Enrico is 75. A Friday feeling, what does that mean? Mel's relaxed. Mona 75. Wow, the energy levels are going up. Yeah, Elena is stressed 30%. Hopefully, Helena, you might feel more energized and less stressed. I hope. And I'm not sure if Karen, is it Karen, or yeah, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But that's good. Wow, Karen is feeling very good, and 80%. Oh, you've been at an art festival. Lovely. Wow, nice. Oh, and Angelica, you're on holiday last week. Oh, okay, so that's why you're feeling the way you are. That's brilliant. It's amazing what a holiday can do for us. Okay, so as I said, for the people who have just joined as well, this is very informative, very relaxed, and any questions or any comments, please just jump in. Feel free to unmute yourself or whatever. So thanks everyone for sharing, and so we'll do a little practice now, and it's just a bit of introspection. And so, just um, ask you to get into a comfortable position, um, and just if you're comfortable, closing your eyes, allowing yourself to really feel into the body, and just let go, be in the present moment, be here, and say just connect with yourself, connect with how you feel. So someone else is just coming in, we'll just get into the session a bit more depth now. So welcome, Jude, into the session. So we're just starting a little introspective session. So everyone just sitting in a comfortable position and the eyes closed, and just allowing yourself to connect with how you feel right now. And I'd just like to ask you to take yourself back to yesterday and review your day yesterday, and go throughout the day, whatever you were engaged in yesterday, and see what comes up for you initially on what you were doing that you felt boosted your energy. So, what did you feel yesterday? So, we're just doing, a session, an introspective session. Everyone's sitting with their eyes closed, if that's comfortable, and taking ourselves back to yesterday, and just go through the day from when you woke up in the morning. What did you find that happened in the day that boosted your energy? What activities were you engaged in that you felt were energizing as you went through the day yesterday? And really go through the day from the moment you woke up. Did you wake up with an alarm? Did you wake up just naturally? What happened in the day for you yesterday? So I'll just be quiet for a few moments as you do that, looking at what for you found energizing in your day yesterday. And if you found, a couple of events that you did find energizing, what was it about them that you felt boosted your energy levels yesterday? What about those experiences was it that was boosting your energy? You're trying to feel into that. And now I'd like to ask you to look at yesterday, go through the day, and what events occurred yesterday that you found were draining your energy? What did you find that was draining your energy yesterday? So you're going through the day yesterday, remembering the day. How did you wake up? And as you went through the day, what was draining for your energy yesterday? Just allowing insights to arise. And anything that's coming up for you that you found was draining for your energy, what was it about those events that were draining for you? Notice any patterns. Just seeing what came up. And then if you do have some experiences that you remember from yesterday, some that were boosting, some that were draining, what was different about them? Just recalling those events, noticing any patterns between the boosting events and the draining events, and any patterns, any insights that might arise. And we'll come back now to the present moment, just collecting your thoughts, any insights that have arisen. And if you like, now just open your eyes and maybe have a nice big stretch. Oh. So, so welcome to some people who have just joined. We were just doing a little exercise there, remembering what happened for us yesterday and any events we noticed that were particularly boosting for us in our energy levels and what we found draining in our energy levels. And I'd like to ask anyone if they'd like to share what came up. Any insights that you had on the day yesterday? What did
I'd
you
be
find?
happy to.
Oh yes, please. Thank you, Yvonne.
Yes, we're trying to move house at the moment, and it's
Oh.
failing miserably for the second time. So yesterday was the feelings of lack of energy were anger and caused by lack of control at other people's incompetence,
Oh.
to put it bluntly. And the energizing was when I took myself outside in a bit of a strop and went for a walk, and it was just so beautiful with the wind blowing through the trees and the
Nice.
scenery. And it was just nature and exercise that calmed me down
Nice.
and made me feel marginally more human than I had. So it was anger and lack of control and nature and exercise.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Yvonne. And would you have thought about that? In the moment, did you think?
No, I was just
Yeah,
raging in the moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally understand that. Thanks, Yvonne. Would anyone else like to share? Did you notice anything that was particularly energizing or otherwise?
I will. I'm Helena. I cannot
Thank
turn
you.
my video on. I'm sorry.
No worries, Helena. Thanks a lot for.
I've been trying every which way, so I'm sorry to be a blank screen.
No, it's fine.
But
I will imagine what.
I'm in a kind of difficult place because my very beloved dog became very ill last week while I was on holiday, and I had to come back and miss 12 days of my holiday to come back and look after him. So I'm a little bit all over the show. And yesterday was a day when the sort of energy draining part was just not knowing really what to do with myself and how to use my time, and whether I should start arranging lots of stuff, and I didn't really want to, and being angry about loss of my holiday and worried about him, although he's doing a lot better. But the good things were my contact with, well, two things. A contact with a really, really good friend, who I had a long conversation with. And then also I watched All the President's Men, the film, in the evening, completely randomly. And you know what I thought when you were talking is that it made me feel that there are people in the world who are good, who are trying to make things better, who care about humanity, who care about us. And my friend was part of that. And I realized that I was deriving energy from their energy rather than from myself. But that was good. That was good.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot, Helena.
Do you want another one?
Oh, yes, please.
Right, Tom here, of Tom and Karen.
Yes, Tom. Yeah, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, we had a funny day yesterday. It was quite a bit unusual, with a very difficult day, a very busy July, but the day before, our son, who was on holiday over from Australia with his wife, left. He was away back to Australia via Croatia. So it was a kind of lonely day because, we don't know when we'll see him again. 1 year, 2 years, whatever. So it was a kind of, a lonely day, a down day but because we've been quite busy, we were having a rest. So I don't think there weren't really any energetic moments.
Right.
However, this morning, we went along for a quick visit to Pidgeon Art Festival. And we actually sometimes you just see the same people, but we went to some different artists who were all very nice. There was jewellery, painting, pottery. We had some excellent conversations. One artist, her husband, had a sound installation, which was very therapeutic. So the whole thing actually, well, in general terms, I think, provided energy, but also I think both of us found that our brains started working.
All right.
As to what to do in our house and, various things to actually moving on. So seeing people.
The sound installation affected my breathing.
The sun?
The sound installation.
Yeah.
All the sound, I noticed it affecting my breathing in a positive way.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so it's interesting, isn't it? Like, it's fascinating, and I love how Alan and his team at Complete Coherence have put all this together. And I'd never thought about you look at the phone, you see it's 50% charged or whatever, and you think, okay, well, that'll do me for the day. Or, oh no, I know I'm going to be out, I need my phone to be charged, and you just plug it in. But we never really think about that for ourselves, in my experience. And, circumstances typically, are making us, our energy levels go up or down. So ideally, we would be able to be more like a master of our energy and control our energy, and not just let what's going on outside of us, impact that so much. So what I'll do, I'm going to share the slides, and so, and have a look at what is it, that is really driving our energy from a physiological perspective. So let me just get some slides up. Can you see that okay? Right, cool. Yep. So anyway, this was the first slide, energy. I just like this light bulb, plugged into the soil, getting energy in the plant. I love, actually, one of the things I love doing in the morning is to look at the sun And then if the sun is too bright in the sky, I'll look at it through a tree. So that, and it's just amazing the energy that is coming down to us from the sun. And when I look at it through the tree, you know that like we see white light coming from the sun, but it's emitting all the colors of the rainbow all the time. And when you look at the sun through the trees, you just see like all these colors. And then for me, all the leaves in the trees will be glowing like this bright white light. And it's like for me, you're seeing photosynthesis. So it's incredible to watch. You know, the way I'm looking at it is that, and I'm looking at a tree right now, is like, you know, how this energy is all around us and how we can tap into that, and how like the plants seem to know how to do that because, you know, just glowing this bright light. So yeah, energy. So yeah, so there's lots of levels. Now, again, this is based on Alan Watkins' work. And when I was starting to do my research, and I came across this iceberg model that I'm going to show you quite a few years ago, and it was just so insightful for me to understand a lot more about our energy systems. So when we see, you know, people, and you know, we see the results or the outcomes of, you know, our behavior, you know, what we're doing, how we're showing up in the world. So this is, you know, an iceberg analogy. This is the tip of the iceberg. So we see what's happening, we see how we're doing things. So what drives what we do and how we do it, how we're showing up, how we're behaving, and what outcomes we're achieving throughout the day. Thoughts, right? So most people will think something like 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day. Interestingly, most of them the same as yesterday, and most of them in the past or the future. And so we're often not present, and we're definitely not aware of our thoughts. And this makes me smile. You know, we're in a conversation with someone, and our attention span is quite limited, so we quite often drift off to something else. And then maybe someone's phone rings, and you know, they go away for a moment, they come back. What were we talking about again? Oh, forgotten, you know, because our minds, you know, drifting off to all these crazy thoughts that we're having that we're not aware of. So we get so distracted so easily. So thinking is impacting how we're showing up, our behavior, and the results of what we're doing. And then, of course, we've got feelings. Now, you know, most people, when we meet each other, we say, hi, how are you? How are you feeling? Oh, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. And rather robotic, because we don't really, most of us are quite disconnected from ourselves. We're not really feeling into ourselves. So what we're thinking is impacting what we're feeling. What we're feeling is impacting what we're thinking. And, you know, this is impacting what we do and how we do it. And these are going on without our conscious awareness, typically, most of the time. So then below this level in the iceberg analogy, we've got emotions. And, you know, emotion is, you know, quite different from feeling. And again, this is the way that Alan, you know, has articulated this. I think it's just so absolutely brilliant. So emotion, or, you know, energy, emotion. So every single cell in the body is vibrating energy, and you know, around the body every moment, which is then when we become conscious of that, we can be aware of feeling. How do we feel? And then that's going to impact, you know, our thinking, blah blah blah. And then below that, what is impacting the level, you know, the energy that's coursing around the bodies all the time is the physiology. And the physiology are the hormones in the body, you know. So we've got, you know, so many different hormones, and I'm just going to show another slide that talks a little bit about that and the autonomic nervous system. But, you know, I often think we think we're intelligent beings, but actually what is driving, the outcomes for us a lot in the day is all these hormones that are running around our body, creating a certain level of energy, which is creating a feeling which we're not really connected to, thoughts that we're not connected to, and so on and so on. So, this is like the integrated performance model. So, right, going on. So, what really determines, the success levels and so on, and how we're showing up? So, this is a depiction of the autonomic nervous system. So, we can be in a high energetic state. So, and that could be related in the autonomic nervous system. We're in a state of fight or flight, producing, relatively high amounts of adrenaline. Equally, we can be in a low energetic state. That can be more relaxation. And, an autonomic nervous system, that's, referred to as the play dead, kind of, state. And we're producing relatively more levels of the hormone acetylcholine. But we can be high energetic state, low energetic state, a different emotional state. So we can be in a positive emotional state, or we can be in a negative emotional state. When we're in a positive emotional state, we're making more of the hormone DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone, and more anabolic, so more like healthy, health-inducing, energizing state. When we're on that negative side, we're making more of the hormone cortisol. And most people have heard of the hormone cortisol. It's become commonly known as the stress hormone. So we can be in a high positive energetic state or a high negative energetic state. And then the high positive emotion, we can be full of passion, enthusiasm, we're motivated, or we can be angry, frustrated, anxious. These are examples of, some of the kind of emotions that we can be having. Low, or we can be low energy but positive, and we can be low energy and also negative. In a positive state, we're content, we're receptive, we're curious. And, some people have spoken about that, about, just being content to be outside, to be in the fresh air and so on. And then we can be, negative, apathy, inattentive, indifference. And people have spoken about those energetic states as well. So when we are in, the left side of the grid in a positive emotional state, that little, bit like this line is our heart rate variability. Now, lots of people are looking at heart rate variability. Heart rate variability has an amplitude, a size, and a lot of people are interested, how big is my heart rate variability? Typically with age, our HRV starts to decline. But what most of the HRV systems are not looking at is the shape of the heart rate variability. So we can see when we're in a positive emotional state, the HRV is following this relatively smooth curve. Oops, sorry. Oh, I know what's happened. The camera is blocking the right side of the heart rate variability. Sorry about that. So hopefully you could see on the left side, you see the nice smooth curve. On the right side, you'll see an erratic curve. So the heart rate variability, so the heart, is going, like this. And it's interesting, we can activate these states, just by being in a traffic jam, right? I think this is a really funny one, like we're in a traffic jam, and we get angry and we're like, oh, I'm frustrated, and I have to get to this meeting. The traffic jam will not go away by reacting to it, but what will happen is we will impact the shape of our heart rate variability, and through doing that, we increase the amount of cortisol relative to the amount of DHA in the bloodstream, and we're in a catabolic state. Catabolic state is really draining energy, so like people spoke about, being confused, being angry, having a lack of control. And yeah, in a traffic jam situation, we don't have any control, but to react to it, in this kind of like way, is causing damage to us. And by reacting, the traffic jam will not shift. So hopefully that is making sense. So what happens now when we're in these different emotional states? Typically our breathing will change. Now, most of us here are oxygen advantage, instructors, or interested in oxygen advantage. And, oxygen advantage, practice has changed my life. My son would kill me if he knew that I tell everyone in these kind of sessions that by practicing oxygen advantage, I managed to beat him in Brighton Marathon a few years ago. Through not running, by mouth breathing, but through nasal breathing. I changed everything in my system. And no pain after that Brighton Marathon. I was out running the next day as if I'd just been for a walk in the park or something like that. So we know there's certain breathing exercises that we can do which impacts us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, so on. But how many times a day do we breathe? How are we breathing when we're not doing a breathing exercise? Are we allowing the circumstances outside of us to determine how we're breathing, or are we connected to our breath? Now, I have referred to this in my mind, I've framed it as what I call your every breath. How are you breathing when you're not doing a breathing exercise? There's 12 dimensions of the breath that we can be in control of. And the first 3, which are most important, are the rhythm of the breath, how smooth it is, and where we are putting our attention. Most of us humans, we're in our head going blah, 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 but we can put our attention in the heart. We can connect to our breath. We can make it rhythmic, we can make it smooth, and we can be in our heart and not in our head. And we know, from ancient history, from all the spiritual traditions, breath and heart was, part of the spiritual traditional practices. We talk about heartfelt emotions. We talk about, this. I've lived in the Middle East quite a bit, and in the Quran it specifically talks about qalb, which is the heart, and nafs, which is the breath. And all of our spiritual traditions knew the breath was impacting us, and how when we connect to the breath, connect to the heart, it impacts how we show up, it impacts our levels of energy. So when we connect our breath and we make it rhythmic, we make it smooth, connect to the heart, we're looking at all these other dimensions of the breath, then we are in a much less reactive state and a much more responsive state. So we realize there's no point in shouting at the traffic jam. There's no point in tooting your horn at people, because we're putting ourselves into a harmful catabolic state. Whereas when we're connected to the breath, you say, okay, I've worked very hard to get this fancy BMW or Tesla or whatever it is these days. I'll just enjoy being in the car, and there's nothing I can do about it. So let me just respond to it in an intelligent way. So let me just stop sharing here for a minute. So this is like so Mel's saying that she has to go, but that's okay. So breath, right? So we all know that breath is important and how it impacts how we perform, but it impacts our every single system in the body. Now, also in the complete coherence, they mention the three E's, right? So we eat, and we exercise, and then we've got our emotional regulation, our energy. So is eating really giving us that vitality? No, because although we know, okay, this bit of food has got this much energy, does it really, when after we eat, do we feel a boost in energy? No one mentioned, oh, I had a fantastic meal and it energized me. Exercise, yeah, it can energize you. It can also be draining, especially if, most of us know that to nasal breathe and not mouth breathe, so we're not draining our energy and causing catabolic damage as much as mouth breathers are. But our emotions are the number one thing. So our body is, having this energy and motion around us all the time, impacting our energy systems. Now, people, when they said about what was boosting their energy levels, it was like walking in nature. It was about, just being in a different state, and that's vitality boosting. So we don't, when things are happening outside of our control, we don't need to react to them. We can become more responsive, and we can do that through connecting with the breath. So what we'll do now, we'll do another exercise, and we'll just start off with a little bit of the rhythmic breathing, and then look at our energy levels and so on, and see what could we do in the moment to enable us to show up in a more emotionally intelligent way to what's going on around us. So is that okay? Does anyone have any questions before we move on? Okay, good. Time is flying. Okay, so let's get into a comfortable position again, if that's okay. And if you're comfortable, close the eyes, keep them open, whatever feels comfortable. And just allowing the body to relax, to know that we don't need to hold on to anything. Quite often, we're tightening the forehead, tightening the throat, shoulders are tense, and so on. We don't need to hold on to any part of ourselves. We don't need to hold on to anything physically or emotionally. So see if you can just let go, allow the body to be held, to know how gravity holds each and every one of us equally, unconditionally, that we're always held. And connect with the breath, our most vital, vital life force. And if it's comfortable, invite you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. And ideally be breathing deep down into the abdomen. So when we say deep breathing, it's not taking a big breath, which can be quite straining, but it's about breathing down to the bottom of the lungs. And as we breathe in, feeling an expansion around the abdomen and the hips, very, very gentle. The out breath, simply letting go. So breathing in through the nose, feeling the abdomen expanding in the in breath. The out breath, simply letting go. And all of us here know that we don't want to excessively breathe in or breathe out. We don't want to excessively breathe out carbon dioxide. So we're breathing softly, as effortlessly as possible, deeply down into the abdomen. So now find a rhythm of breathing which you find comfortable. So breathing in for a count of 3 or 4 or 5, whatever feels comfortable. So breathing rhythmically. Just for a few breaths, finding your comfortable rhythm, counting the breath in and the breath out. And maintain that comfortable rhythm. So the breath is soft and gentle, deep and rhythmic. And keeping the breath soft and deep and rhythmic, now place the awareness in the area around the heart. So we know that the heart is generating our energy. It's generating so much more energy than the brain. The heart sending more signals to the brain and vice versa. The heart is taking a signal from the breath. So when we breathe softly and rhythmically, the heart will also respond, and the heart rate variability will follow this rhythmic pattern. So the heart is resonating with the breath. So keeping ourselves in the heart, see if you can even hear me speaking from your heart, and staying in the heart, seeing how you feel. So as we're breathing like this, we're impacting the hormones that are being produced in the body. We're optimizing the hormones to improve our energy levels. So we're boosting our energy just through the way that we breathe. So keeping in the heart, feeling in the heart, the energy and motion around the body becoming more optimal, more anabolic. This will be impacting every single system in the body. So it's impacting the physiology, impacting the hormones, so the energy and motion, impacting the thoughts. And this will impact how we behave and the outcomes that we prefer in our day. So just remembering the situations in our life that we found energizing. Just see if you can feel the energy of that in your body now. How did that feel? And remember how we were breathing in those circumstances. We were probably breathing much more rhythmically, evenly, more connected to the heart, more energizing state. So remembering one of those positive energy boosting situations, if you can create those emotions in the body now. What does that feel like? How does it feel? And then choosing one of the situations that we found to be draining. Remember that. But don't allow those emotions, those feelings to come back into the body. But see them from this perspective of being at peace. Keep attention in the area around the heart. And just see if you see another way to have responded to that particular situation. How could we have responded differently to one of those energy draining situations? Keeping in the heart, keeping the breath rhythmic, and just giving attention a moment. How could I have shown up differently in that moment that wouldn't have had this catabolic state, this energy draining state in the day? And just know that by regulating the breath, we're regulating the heart rhythms. And we all know how heart rate variability impacts our metabolic age, our energy systems, our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, and the outcomes for our life. Know that we can be in a state of regulating how we show up. We have a choice. And just maybe smiling at that situation, letting it go, feeling the positive emotions we can regulate just simply through the breath. Visualize a smile in the heart, smile in the lips. And just know in our hearts that we have the power to revitalize ourselves, to use our energy in sensible ways. And know as well that how our heart is beating influences every system in our body, but also impacts our relationships. We know that when we walk into a room, we can feel the energy, we can feel people's emotional state. And by living from this emotional state, regulating the breath, regulating the heart rhythms, we can be conduits for more positive energy, emotions of all of those that we also interact with. So again, feeling that smile in the heart, feeling how when we breathe rhythmically, the heart's beating rhythmically, and all those water molecules in our body will also form into beautiful geometrical patterns. You can imagine ourselves at peace and connected to nature the way we're supposed to be. Now, if you like, just giving your palms of your hands a rub and a nice big stretch. Oh. So, how's everyone? Any thoughts on that? Anything that came up? An hour is not a long time. It's much shorter than I realised.
I really liked the fact when you did that little breathing practice that you didn't give us a specific count. And I'm going to use that occasionally. It's like rather than say 5 in, 5 out, it's nice just to let yourself find your own rhythm. And I thought that was a good way of slowing the breath without trying too hard to slow the breath. So I enjoyed that. And the focus on the heart, again, I don't use that often, but it's nice to be reminded of that because it just centers everything as well.
Yeah. It's so powerful. And yeah, I don't think it's, very helpful sometimes to do 5 in, 5 out, because some people, are breathing 15 times a minute. That's the average person will be breathing 15 times a minute. So to suddenly go to 5 or 6 times a minute, that can be quite stressful. So yeah. But what happens as well, when we do regulate the rhythms, naturally the breathing will slow down. and we come into a more congruent state. Our thoughts are more, you know, helpful, etc. And the outcomes as well are really impacted. Thanks, Gray. Anyone else? Oh, thanks, Andrea. Oh, that's nice, Andrea. So your heart is beating differently. Oh, like, yeah, nice. It's really, it is energizing, like you say, like, yeah, it's just like you've had a nap. Thank you. Anyone else? So yeah, so it's really, really, really so powerful. Now this, now as I said, you know, the Complete Coherence have developed an app, and within this app, there's a whole universe of emotions. Like most people, as I said, you know, we were talking earlier, how do you feel? Yeah, I'm fine, good. We don't actually know how we feel. And within this app, um, they have listed 2,000 emotions and put them into different quadrants. You know, we looked at the autonomic nervous system. You've got the, you know, the top, the left top part, and then the bottom right part. So high energy, positive emotion, low energy, positive emotion. Then we've got, you know, the other side. And then, you know, when we connect to these and we start to look at how do we actually feel, you know, when we show up, and then know that we can put ourselves more over to the left, because most of us most of the time are on that right side, causing this catabolic state within us. Now I did want to take you through a few more slides which go through how the you know, the app, but I realised we're running out of time, so I can share that, you know, offline, share some information, and, you know, we could always reconnect as well. But this is an absolutely brilliant app, and I find it's absolutely brilliant for any of us who are working with people. So what the app does, allows you to understand the emotions, understand what's impacting our energy systems. And then there's, you know, a HRV link, and we can, you know, do a breathing practice, and we can see how the heart rhythms are being regulated, or how they're irregular. But over time, we can start to regulate that and get into a more, you know, optimal state of coherence.
Can you share the link to the
Yes,
app
I
at all,
will.
Barbara?
So, so that, see, it's really, really good. You know, I'm actually, you know, the app is fairly new. It's measuring HRV in terms of amplitude, but it's also the shape, which is really, really important. So this is the only app that I know that's doing both. You know, I know some that will do the shape, and there's many, many, many will do the size, but this is covering both. So I'm actually going through their training at the moment. This is the first time I'm actually presenting this, so thank you for being my guinea pigs. And I would really, really appreciate, you know, if it's to let me know what was helpful, what wasn't helpful. So say it's useful for ourselves. Now I'm really keen to set up, you know, communities. The app itself is free, but if you want to train in the, you know, the methodology and so on, you know, there is a fee for that. It's absolutely brilliant, and I've had really, really, really good support from the people there, and it's just like, for me, life changing. This, you know, being connected with this, and the team there at Complete. So yeah, it's you know, just one of these things, you know, heart rate variability thing, and, you know, fix it all up. Very, very simple, straightforward to use. I'll just quickly see if I've got it here. And yeah, so this, just to show you, this is the universe of emotions here. So you'll see like the 4 quadrants there. And then you can zoom out and see there's 2,000 different emotions on there. So we get to know ourselves much more clearly, and not be robots. How are you feeling? Fine. We don't really know how we feel most.
Pick an emotion.
Yeah. And you can track your emotions, you can track your energy levels, you can track, what's energizing you, what's draining you. You can start to see the patterns and you can start to change those patterns. And we can show up in, responsively rather than reactively. Oh, so the app is Complete Coherence. The actual app is called Complete, but I can share this information, offline as well. And if anyone wanted me, to take you through it, we can do another session as well. I'd love to do that.
Are you happy to share your contact details then as well, Barbara, if anybody
Yeah, of
wants to
course.
contact
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Obviously, you can come through me if you want to contact Barbara,
Yeah.
or if
Yeah.
you're happy to share, stick your email in the
Yeah.
chat,
Yeah.
or website or whatever.
All
If
right.
you are,
Right.
of course,
So I'll
if you
put
have
my
it.
email here. But anyway, so I think it's great to connect with, people like us who are already into breathing and, already know a lot of the physiology. Adding this is just adding, an extra dimension, because we can have all the oxygen advantage that we want, but if we're not regulating, the emotions, then, it's something we, like we go out for a run, you come back and you do something else, it's improving our level of consciousness and our responsiveness. And then, as I said, in particular, our relations, because what's going on in here is, being felt all around us, for about at least 1 meter. And you walk in a room and you feel it, and I particularly say to parents, the worst thing you can do for your kids is to worry about them, because a child is not going to come home and ask the worried parent, for help. They're going to walk in the room, feel and go and hide in the room. So when we can regulate our rhythms, then we allow people will approach us. And this is what I found, when I was in the corporate world, and, prior to breathing, I was this like, "Argh!" And people are not going to come and ask me for support. They're just going to say, oh no, she's in a bad mood. And, I worked for Shell for 20 years, and I went on all this leadership development. The one thing that changed how I showed up in my leadership was breathing, because I changed, myself. I went on, INSEAD in Paris, did all these amazing leadership development. I didn't change. I learned stuff. I got new knowledge, new information, but me as a person did not change. So when I started to, get into regulating my breathing, I became a different person. And it's not trying to be a different person. You're changing the physiology, which is changing the emotions, which is changing the feelings, which is changing the thoughts, which is then changing the behaviors and the outcomes. It's not like we don't want to try and be different. We want to allow, and Eckhart Tolle's, way of putting it, he says, don't try to change, create space to allow change to happen. And actually, if you don't mind, I will share one slide quickly, which I find quite helpful. Let me just find it. Viktor Frankl, right? He was in, Auschwitz, terrible, terrible times, but he managed to regulate his emotions and came out, a better person. And he says between stimulus and response there's a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. And then in that response lies our growth and our freedom. Nelson Mandela, I've been in his prison cell that he spent 27 years. It's in Robben Island off the south coast of South Africa. And he, spoke about, he learned that courage was, about triumph over how we're feeling. And then just recently I was listening to Jim Quick. Some of you might know him, the brain guy. And, I just put this in here. We don't have energy, we create energy. And I thought that was just, it completely, brings all of this together.
Barbara, that's brilliant. Does anyone, I know we've run over time a little bit, does anyone
Yeah,
have any
sorry.
questions before? Don't apologize, it's brilliant. Does anybody have any questions before we finish? Oh, Barbara's got one.
No, I want to share one more slide. Sorry.
No, oh yeah, sorry.
I'm just remembering. So just as an outcome of this, I would like you just to commit, right, to going through your day, to taking the time to pause. Now, I suggest to people setting an alarm. How am I breathing? How am I feeling? To bring awareness into our state, to choose how we want to be, to share that, and to smile. And, you know, we can never say, I don't have time. We're always breathing, and we can choose how to breathe, and then we choose how we show up in the world. So don't tell me I don't have time. If we don't breathe, we don't live. Right. So
if anybody has any questions before we finish,
any thoughts?
any thoughts, any emotions,
Yeah,
any
any
icebergs?
emotions.
Has anybody's energy level increased since the start of the session?
Oh, that's good. Karen and Tom, thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you, Barbara. I really appreciate that. I really enjoyed that. So I think it would be good, as you say, to do another follow-up on this at some point. So I'm happy to do that if you are. And yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for joining, and thanks again to Barbara. And if you've got any questions, you can fire them to me, or you've got Barbara's email there as well. So thank you very much for jumping in.
Thanks.
Have a great rest of your day and a fantastic weekend.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, everyone. Get out in the sun and enjoy. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Bye. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.